online. We are so pleased to have you here to listen to and think about our finances at this church. Part of our intention in this is to do some myth busting. We have some things that maybe you hadn't heard about with our financial state of the church. And so Doug will do his best to kind of clear up any misconceptions that we have, and then I'll reiterate our aspirations for 2022 and beyond. So Doug will speak, then I'll speak, and then our senior warden, Hal Evans, who's in the back with the microphone, will come around when we have questions. So please hold your questions to the end, and we'll have about a few minutes or so to answer questions. So because we're live streaming, we really can't field questions during our presentation. So please hold them to the end. Doug.
This went better at rehearsal yesterday. Good morning. Thank you, Kelly, for that introduction. For those who do not know me, I am the chair of the St. Peter's Finance Committee. According to Jim Tedman's Stewardship 2022 email, which you mentioned this morning, I am the answer man. I think he was just throwing me under the bus, but I did bring my spreadsheets and good stuff with you, so I'll be glad to answer all your questions. Thank you for spending some of your valuable time this morning learning more about our financial situation and about our exciting Aspirational Stewardship campaign. As Kelly stated, I will provide a financial overview, sharing good news and challenges. She will then talk about the aspirational growth initiatives we hope you will find inspiring. We will be happy to answer your questions at the end of the presentation, and we'll stay as long as necessary to respond to all the questions. So please, no questions during the presentation. For those of you watching on YouTube or at home, you can email your questions and comments to frontdesk@stpetersav.org. This address appears at the end of the slides. The live streaming team has done a fabulous job preparing the slides. They are in control from the back of the church, so we apologize in advance if we get slightly out of sync. Let's get started. Church leaders are putting together the 2022 budget. We've prepared a preliminary strawman budget to guide our stewardship campaign and to recognize the difficulties we face. More on these in a minute. We will refine the budget based on the results of the stewardship campaign and the 2022 expense projections from staff and committee and guild chairs. As Kelly noted in her sermon, St. Peter's completed a very successful strategic planning process in late 2019 with outstanding congregation participation. 6 areas of focus were identified and work was initiated on them, and then the pandemic struck. Amazingly, St. Peter's adapted to the challenges and accomplished most of the goals on governance, building use, and internal and external relationships. The remaining areas are elder care and children's ministry. More detail on those in a few minutes. Now let's talk about decisions on what we can fund. I think we need to admit to ourselves that we are a high-maintenance congregation. We have high expectations, not unreasonable, just elevated. These place a lot of demands on our clergy, staff, volunteers, and other resources. We expect interesting and informative sermons. We expect wonderful worship services with great music. Well, at least those who go to 11:15 do. We want special and continuous pastoral care. We desire challenging and informative adult formation classes and forums. We expect beautiful and clean facilities. We are proud of our effective and generous outreach efforts. We expect effective communication, transparency, answers to our questions and concerns. All of these expectations require resources and are expensive to provide. The Finance Committee and vestries struggle every year to achieve a balanced budget, weighing available financial resources against desired expectations. So we need your help. We're asking your assistance to help us reach our goals, both to keep the ship afloat and to, that is, meet our expectations for continuing programs and ministries, and to set sail with God supporting our strategic plan and aspirations. If you feel passionate about any one of these items or want to discuss further, you can call your vestry contact person. The vestry is currently making a round of wellness calls to parishioners. Reach out to them with your thoughts. Email or call the church office. Call or email me or Pete Kasner, our treasurer. Talk to our wardens, Hal and Kathy, or our clergy. Let's look briefly at our challenges. Our challenges are not unique to St. Peter's. Most, if not all, religious and charitable organizations face similar issues, especially in the uncertain times of the long-term pandemic. Our recent trends are moving in an unsettling direction. As Jim Tedman continues to remind us, the solution is growth in both participants and financial support levels. So bring a friend or neighbor to church when conditions permit, or get them involved online, or with one of our outreach activities. First, let's look at our pledge challenge. Pledges are the foundation of our budget process. They comprise 92 to 94% of total operating income in regular years. Although they are not legally binding, pledges provide the most consistent projection of year-end income. When finalizing the operating budget, the Finance Committee and vestry depend on the level of confidence that pledges provide. We are also thankful to our faithful contributors, those who do not pledge but regularly contribute to St. Peter's operation. We understand that for some of you, there are IRS rules that prevent making a quote-unquote pledge. We experienced a sharp decline in pledge income in 2021, over $140,000. Pledge income declined to only 76% of 2021's operating budget. We lost one of our largest pledging households last year due to a lack of a children's ministry. The decline in pledging households is even more concerning. We averaged 192 pledging households in 2006 to 2018. That average declined to 163 in 2019 and 2020, and shrank to only 146 in 2021, a 24% decline from the 2016-2018 average. We hope that the 2021 declines are partially due to the uncertainty about the COVID pandemic in the late 2020, a time when everyone was concerned about their own and their neighbor's future. Please prayerfully consider your commitment to St. Peter's operating funds. Our second challenge is increased operating expenses. We have all experienced the impacts of recession recently. As noted before, our staff is our most critical resource. We need to compensate them properly. The staff endured no salary increases in 2019 and in the initial 2021 budget due to budget constraints. Medical insurance costs will increase 5.6% in 2022. We really cannot afford any more staff turnover. That's Kelly's comment. We appealed our diocesan assessment in 2019 and received relief for 2020 and 2021, a reduction from 12% to 8% in 2020 and from 12% to 10% in 2021. Our diocesan assessment returns to 12% in 2022. That return to regular tithing to the diocese is an almost $17,000 increase over last year. We anticipate a 10% increase in our property and casualty insurance, an increase in utilities, and other operating expenses. Let's explore our third challenge, increased building capital repair costs. So HVAC systems, outdoor lighting, signs, painting, driveway and parking lot repair, just to name a few. Most of these expenses are paid from the Maintenance Reserve Fund, one of our key assets. We have been funding the MRF at $15,000 per year from the operating budget. We contributed $0 to the MRF in the 2021 budget. The 40-year projection workbook, originally prepared by George James, recommends a $36,000 annual contribution to avoid a negative balance in 2028. Let's explore our fourth challenge, operating budget deficits covered by the PPP. Miscellaneous income, which includes building rental income, the St. Thomas donation to support our combined youth ministries, which we've since terminated, prior year surpluses, and other non-contribution items, comprises only 1 to 1.5% of the total operating income budget. In the 2021 budget, that percentage is 13.6%, $106,250, versus an average of $10,000. That's a huge increase. Why? Recognizing the Paycheck Protection Program, money that St. Peter's received in 2020. Without those funds, we would be staring at a $65,000 deficit rather than a balanced budget. This is obviously not sustainable. The U.S. government will not be giving out free money to religious organizations every year. I know that some folks thought we should not have applied for or accepted this money, but it has been a lifesaver in the year of challenges and uncertainty. So where are we? We are again at a decision point, similar to late 2011. What do we do? Your 2022 pledges will influence our discussion and decisions. Either increase membership and pledge income. The best solution, as Kelly mentioned, is a 12% increase in 2022 pledge income over the 2021 base to allow church leaders to balance the budget, given our needs to reward staff and address anticipated operating expenses for ongoing ministries and programs, keeping the ship afloat. The parish responded to the 2020 stewardship campaign. We hope you will do so again. Or significantly reduce operating expenditures. There is virtually no fat in the preliminary 2022 base budget. Our objective is to always adopt a balanced or reasonably balanced budget. By far the largest component of the expense budget is staff compensation, followed by the diocese assessment and buildings and grounds. We could eliminate the $15,000 operating budget contribution to the Maintenance Reserve Fund, but that would be shortchanging St. Peter's future. I read a great comment about building reserve funds after the Surfside, Florida condo collapse. Just because the roof doesn't send an invoice every month doesn't mean it doesn't need to be paid. But let's shift towards the positive, the good news about St. Peter's. The good news about St. Peter's, and there is a lot of it. First, no mortgage or debt. St. Peter's has no mortgage or outstanding debt unless you count the balances on our business credit cards. We do have a line of credit agreement with South State Bank negotiated by Treasurer Bob Gilbert in 2019 to address potential cash flow issues. We borrowed $50,000 in October 2019 and repaid that loan in January 2020. We have renewed the LOC in 2020 and 2021, but have not used it to date and do not anticipate needing it this year. The fact that South State Bank would offer us a substantial line of credit is indicative of St. Peter's financial stability. Next, let's review our financial assets. We have substantial restricted assets. St. Peter's has restricted assets totaling over $1 million. The downside, these are restricted to specific predefined purposes and are not available to fund the operating budget. Let's explore some of these. First, the St. Peter's Endowment Fund. The Endowment Board governs the Endowment Fund and is comprised of 5 members of the parish. They work with a professional investment advisor. Let's look at the investment graph. Like typical endowments, the objective is to grow the fund in perpetuity while making some funds available for distribution annually. Therefore, the fund investment mix is generally 70% equities and 30% bonds. Next, some more details. The Key Society. The Key Society is a group of people committed to sharing the light of Christ with future generations through their estate plans or gifts to the endowment fund. You can join this group. There are planned giving cards in the pews. Funds are available annually for distribution, generally 4% of the average balance of the fund for the preceding 12 quarters. Distributions are intended to enable the parish to more completely fulfill its mission by developing ministries beyond that possible through operating funds. They are limited to outreach ministries and grants, seed money for new ministries, special one-time projects, and other such purposes as specified by the donors. Distribution shall not be made to the operating budget. That's written in their charter. Next, the Maintenance Reserve Fund. The Maintenance The Maintenance Reserve Fund, fondly known as the MRF, supports major repair or replacement of St. Peter's capital assets. It is a blessing that not all parishes have. Many diocese assessment reduction appeals are due to a congregation experiencing unplanned for and unfunded capital expenditures. The B&G team maintains a cost projection workbook started by George James that forecasts potential capital project costs over the next 40 years. Some of these projects that we have completed already: major organ repairs in 2015 and 2019, primarily due to mold. The extensive sanctuary humidity and mold remediation efforts in 2018 and 2019. HVAC replacements in 2018, 20, 21 in the education and choir wing and the parish hall. The sanctuary window painting in 2019, and the timely sanctuary roof replacement this year. The Maintenance Reserve Fund is funded from annual operating budget contributions in most years, the Robert Tripp Fund annual distribution in recent years, the Market at 3 Westbridge facility fee, which they've graciously contributed in the last few years, and specific donations and memorials. Future funding adequacy is under study. One challenge, the sanctuary HVAC replacement currently being researched, will require a substantial expenditure in the next 3 to 5 years. Next, various accounts supporting ministry activities and projects. In addition to the Maintenance Reserve Fund, there are 22 other special restricted accounts that support ministry activities or projects. Examples are the Flower Fund, Memorial Garden Fund, Clergy Discretionary Fund, Community Concert Series, the Dominican Republic Gift of Sight Eye Clinic, the Library Fund, Outreach Committee Fund, and the new ministry technology-driven project. Thanks, Chris, for that tongue twister. What? Bleh. These accounts are funded by designated contributions. Their August 2021 balance is $123,862. In addition, we have a permanent restricted library fund of $50,000. Investment income from this fund is used to purchase books for the St. Peter's Library. We have non-financial assets also. First, strong outreach. St. Peter's has always focused on helping the broader community. Due to budget constraints in recent years, we reduced outreach grants funding from the operating budget and focused on parishioner involvement. Let's see some of the outreach activities you may be involved in. The Dominican Republic Gift of Sight Eye Clinic Mission, the Music Academy and Living Waters, the Market at 3 Westbridge, which is returning on February 8th, 2022. I had to get that in there. Family Promise, the Justice Unite Savannah Together group. That's Trevor's. If you're into that, it's Trevor Walker's. And Love Mentors. We are also fortunate to have a resilient Invite, Welcome, Connect team, as been talked about previously. This leadership group is a key resource to our future successful growth. They have obviously been hindered by COVID precautions, but have found creative methods to attempt to entice people, especially new arrivals to the landings, to get to know St. Peter's and involve them in our ministries. Remember, we are all part of this evangelism effort, and we must invite new people, welcome them into the St. Peter's Parish family, and engage with them in order to understand their interests, skills, and preferred level of involvement, and then connect them with the activities that will enable them to advance their spiritual life. Next, professional live streaming, worship, and events. You are experiencing that now. Chris Good and his team, along with outside consultants and contractors, have created a professional video and audio environment that will serve us well into the future. And last but not least, inspiring aspiration plans. I'm not going to steal Kelly's thunder, but I think and hope that you will be enthusiastic about our aspirational goals. Just to recap the good news about St. Peter's. No mortgage or debt, substantial restricted assets, the St. Peter's, including St. Peter's Endowment Fund and the Maintenance Reserve Fund, and various restricted accounts supporting ministry, strong outreach, resilient Invite, Welcome, Connect, professional live streaming, and exciting aspirational plans. Now let's review recent trends and budget projections. I will quickly review recent budget trends, 2018 and 2021 operational income and expense trends, the mid-year adjusted 2021 budget, and the preliminary 2022 keep the ship afloat budget. I love the phrase that Kelly came up with, actually. So let's look first at the pledge trends from 2017 to 2021. Let's make sure. Prior to the 2018, St. Peter's attendance and pledge income were slowly increasing as we approached the transition to a more program-driven parish. As I've noted before, we had an average of 192 pledging households with an average annual total pledge of $883,000 in 2016 to 2018. In 2019 and 2020, those numbers declined to 163 and basically $725,000, a 15% decline in pledging households and a 7.4% decline in total pledges. In 2021, those numbers dropped sharply to 146 households with total pledge income of only $613,000, not $613. These trends are not sustainable. Let's review the 2018 to 2021 operational income and expense graph. In 2017, which is not shown because it wouldn't fit, we experienced a large deficit, over $59,000, primarily due to an increased personnel expenses, utilities, and many program areas being over budget. That deficit was covered by surpluses from prior years. In 2018, a fall appeal helped reduce the deficit to slightly over $29,000. Pledge income increased from 2017 and expenses declined, 1.8% under budget. We reduced unspent outreach grants and other discretionary expenditures in the fall as the pledge shortfall was recognized. The deficit was only 3.5% of income and only half of the 2017 deficit. In 2019, it was a large increase in non-pledge contributions, almost double the budget, and special one-time gifts resulted in a small, almost $7,000 surplus. Expenditures declined steeply from 2018, down almost $66,000, or 7.5%. This is primarily due to staff reductions, elimination of outreach grants. No, there was no J2A pilgrimage in 2019, which there was in 2018. That's about $7,000 out of the operating budget. And there was elimination of discretionary expenses. So the old budgets had money for the vestry, for conventions, for parish meals, etc. All of those were eliminated. There were also some expense program reductions. It was really a very tough year trying to work on the budget to get it to be somewhat balanced. In 2020, there was a great response to the stewardship campaign. Non-pledge contributions remained strong. Expenditures declined slightly from 2019, partially due to the reduced assessment, as we just talked about. And the result was a $23,000 surplus, which has helped us balance the 2021 budget. In 2021, the less said, the better. There was again a large decline in pledge income, but continued strong non-pledge contributions. Expenses were under control, primarily due to clergy transitions. We project a balanced budget solely due to using the Paycheck Protection Program monies to fill the income gap. Staff and committees have exercised great expense control in recent years, always searching for ways to do more at less cost. Next is the 2021 operating budget graph, income and expense. The Finance Committee investor reviewed and revised the 2021 budget in July. And these graphs represent the revised budget. Income is projected to be budget income is $780,250, with non-pledge income increased mid-year based on historic patterns and stewardship chair review. Thank you, Jim. Additional pledges received at mid-year. Miscellaneous increase, again, increased $91,000, 586% from the 2020 actual, due to increased building rental, which was a positive, using the PPP money and prior year surpluses. That was $82,000 for those two items in the 2021 budget. Expenses, $780,000. Staff compensation remains the largest component of expenses. There were no salary increases in January, but there were mid-year adjustments for key staff. Communications and sundry nursing school positions were eliminated in 2021. Clergy and staff transitions resulted in expense savings. There was great expense control, especially administration and buildings and grounds. Discretionary funding eliminated or reduced again, parish meals, vestry, etc. There was no contribution to the maintenance reserve fund. There was support for live streaming, and other pandemic expenses were included. We continue to practice prudent management. More pledgers and/or higher pledges are obviously needed. Just a note, this expense graph will differ from the stewardship brochure, since for the stewardship brochure exhibit, the staff compensation numbers are distributed to each area based on their time allocation for that function, versus broken out as a separate item. It was easy to do this graph. Next, an overview of the 2022 base budget, preliminary estimates. These are preliminary estimates predicated on 2021 expenditures year to date and educated estimates on 2022 changes. The estimates will be refined based on staff and committee and guild chair projections for 2022 expenses and on the results of the stewardship campaign. The first draft budget will be presented to the vestry in November, and the final draft presented in December for their approval. The goal is a balanced 2022 budget. Next, income projections. Income, $843,500. That represents a 12% increase over the 2021 pledges received, as Kelly noted in her sermon. Contributions, continued strong support from non-pledgers and newcomers. Miscellaneous income, we use the remaining 2020 PPP monies, and again, increased building rental. The staff, I can't remember the name of the group now. The space utilization team has done a great job of revising our rents and looking for new folks to use the facilities. The other budget component are expenses. Confirmed or anticipated increases included in the Keep the Ship Afloat budget. Medical insurance, 5.6%. Property and casualty, probably 10%. Limited staff salary increases, basically cost of living increases at mid-year. A diocesan assessment increased $17,000 from 10 to 12%. There's the restoration of the $15,000 operating budget contribution to the maintenance reserve fund. A full financial audit next year is required. There is, according to the diocese rules, there's a continuing live stream support, expected increase in utilities, and there will be a J2A pilgrimage next year. And the result, a balanced budget, if we get the 12%. However, if we achieve only a 10% increase in pledge income, that results in an almost $19,000 deficit in the preliminary Keep the Ship Afloat budget. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your commitment to St. Peter's. And remember, in faith we move forward. And now I'm going to turn it over to Kelly to talk about our aspirational budget. Well,
Thank you, Doug. My headset here we go. All right. So, take a look again at that 2020 to 2023 strategic plan document, that cream little handout during worship. And those who are looking at this online, we will send that out via email as well. It is also on our website under the Member Central section. So if you look at the strategic plan, you know that we're not done yet. It goes through to 2023. And as Doug's been suggesting, vestry and staff have been exploring for months our needs and our missionary targets. No matter what, we're focused on congregational growth and enrichment. And that's basically our mission with God in the world. As we continue to implement the strategic plan, we want to be careful to retain who we have while also attracting even more people. And we think we're reasonably attractive to all those empty nesters that move to Skidaway Island every year. thanks mainly to our newcomers committee, the IWC committee. We have lost some young families due to a lack of children's ministry in recent years, and I can think of a handful off the top of my head. And children's ministry, just to specify, is from birth to 12 years of age. So youth ministry is 12 to 18. I should do it this way. Children's ministry is birth to 12, youth ministry is 12 to 18. So youth is older kids. So we have a decision to make as church leaders to shift our focus for 2022 and beyond. So looking at the strategic plan, the remaining areas are elderhood ministry, aging in this place, and children and youth. We want to address both. We're not going to neglect one over the other. But children's ministry will take more intentionality and, quite frankly, more funding. We have a decision to make about where we spend that funding in 2022. We each have to make a decision about pledging, keeping the ship afloat, or setting sail with God. The vestry staff believe that elderhood will be addressed more naturally with our ongoing ministries by keeping up the excellence of our current ministries and adding the committee as mentioned in the plan. We'll keep doing what we do best and constantly improve our preaching, pastoral care, adult formation, Bible studies, forums, prayer services, concert series, outreach activities, men's group, newcomers ministry, foyers, and other typical parish activities that attract those empty nesters each year to our church. So regarding children, youth, and families, we still have a current youth ministry. That's, again, with ages 12 to 18. Our youth ministry is also in a downward trend as our older youth are graduating each year. We could use more youth, energy, resources that naturally come from a vigorous children's ministry. We're keeping our youth ministry this year with reduced staff hours from Matt, who works full-time as a respiratory therapist at Memorial Hospital, and help from David. David is supplementing Matt's work with the youth ministry this year. So Matt currently only works 5 hours a week, and that's on Sunday nights with youth primarily. And David supports their Christian education and confirmations, as well as regular priestly duties with pastoral care, Bible study, and other things. So, with children, youth, and families looking forward, there are a couple of examples we can see. The Reverend Helen White helped start a children's church ministry 5 years ago at Christ Church Episcopal downtown, and that now serves children online and in person. She's going to come talk to us on Zoom for a Q&A on October 24th at 9 a.m. to talk about how they were able to get that children's ministry started at Christ Church. It started before she even got there about 12 years ago. So again, it would probably take about a decade for it to flourish. But she's going to come share her best practices with us. And you can see a picture of it on the right there. We also have Mr. Freckles from Church on the Square in Baltimore doing a children's sermon. Mr. Freckles is the dragon there on the left. Mr. Freckles asks questions about the scriptures every week, and their children's ministry is online. They're doing a children's sermon with Mr. Freckles. So there are different ways of doing this. It doesn't always look like it used to because of our new internet age that we live in. So we'll also bring in the Reverend Canon Joshua Varner, the Canon for Youth and Children's Ministry with the diocese, who will talk about what it'll take to support children's ministry here. And we'll also have the Dr. Bertice Berry, a grandmother supporting her grandchild's spirituality through online ministry at Christ Church. She's also a world-renowned speaker who will come during our stewardship season on October 24th. You will want to hear her talk. She is amazing. So the vision is a thriving children's ministry that feeds a thriving youth ministry, youth and family ministry. As I say, it's easier to get them when they're younger than as they age. So the vision is a thriving children's ministry that feeds a thriving youth and family ministry. And the need is to hire a skilled staff person to spearhead it. Some of you may know that we have tried and failed in recent years to restart our children's ministry. When I first got here, my first task was to staff a godly play session in the fall of 2018. We had one child show up that whole fall. We have tried and failed in recent years to kickstart a children's ministry sort of on the side. not really as a focus, just something we kind of threw together. And we found that we don't have the staff and volunteer capacity, passion, and skill to restart the children's program. It has to be a real, intentional effort. That's what we learned. So without a specialist who knows how to do that, it hasn't gotten off the ground. So we think we need to hire a children's ministry person to spearhead the development of the program from the ground up. No, we're not going to pull any punches. We're going to tell the person from the ground up. The children's ministry needs a dedicated, skilled staff person to initiate activity, networking, and recruiting volunteers to put together Sunday morning children's church, VBS in the summer, and seasonal intergenerational activities. So, 2022 could be year one in a multi-year investment to seed this children's program and ensure it takes root. Now, this isn't a promise. It's an aspiration, still as yet undefined. So let's take a look at a few potential funding sources. You'll see that in 2022 on the chart, there's a potential for the endowment to help us cover this new ministry initiative, because that's what the endowment can fund. It's new ministry initiatives, one-time projects. But over time, the church has to be prepared to take on the burden of the finances of this project. So, in sum, to keep the ship afloat with our current programming, not adding a children's program, we need a 12% increase in pledging to balance the 2022 budget. That's about $73,000 total. That's continuing with our newcomers ministries to attract those empty nesters. But to set sail with God, to move forward with the children's ministry and our other strategic initiatives, we need more funds to achieve this work. So in 2022, we're counting on all of our members, both those in person and online, to help bring us growth. So here's the thing about pledging. Universities, nonprofits, even political campaigns pull from a large pool of people all over the world to make contributions to their causes. Your church only has you, the people who show up here or show up online, those who enjoy our work and our ministry together. So please make your contributions from the bottom of your heart, intentionally and not accidentally. That's what pledging is all about. So in sum, it'll take a 12% increase in pledges to meet our base budget, and we need even more, and on average about 13.3% more, to achieve those aspirations in children's ministry. No matter what, we'll keep improving our welcome ministries and the good work that we do. So in faith, we move forward. At this point, we will take Q&A from those in the audience. Again, Hal Evans has the microphone, so please wait to ask your question once you have the microphone so we can get it on the live stream. Looks like we have a question right here from Chuck.
Two questions, actually. If I heard you right, to set sail for God, you need a 13.3% increase. Is that right?
On average, yeah.
In total.
On average.
Oh, yeah.
The second thing is, over the last few years, we've lost some wealthy donors to other churches.
Mm-hmm.
How about, do we have a plan to go talk to those people and say, what would it take to get you guys back?
I mean, I would love for you to be a part of that effort. and we have. The vestry has been talking about all this, and one of the vestry members has reached out to some of those families that have left.
Any promise?
They're not going to come back to nothing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, okay.
Like, we have to be
All right.
prepared for them to show up. And my guess is, again, speaking off the cuff here, which is always dangerous, is that people are not going to drive past our church to go to a downtown children's ministry if ours is reasonably good.
Right.
That's the gamble I'm making here, is that they're not going to drive past us and drive 20 minutes downtown.
Give me a call. I'll be glad to help you.
Thank you, Chuck. That's the sales guy. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ann Hurley's got a question over there. One of our new members.
And do what? Okay, like that. Can I be here? Okay, and I'm the least person to try to humbly put forth anything, but I was thinking the best way to attract children is to attract the parents. But the best way to attract the parents is to establish something that the children need. So if we go forward with any type of children's program, we could also, if we can get the volunteers, and I would pledge a little volunteering at this point. What I've noticed that a lot of the families need on the island, whether it's junior high or high school or even in the elementary school, is tutoring. So if the program incorporated also opportunities for volunteer tutors, I think it would attract a lot of attention. And I may be wrong, but I'm just brainstorming with you.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in the research phase, right? This is aspiration. It's not a defined plan, a step-by-step plan. The vestry and I have discussed this. We don't want to get too specific about exactly what we would do because we would need to make sure we have the right person that knows this area and knows the people here, knows what they need, and that we can do the research to know what's actually a niche that's waiting to be filled in this area, for sure. Thanks for that. And anyone else have a question? Wow. Oh, here we go.
Hi, I'm Karen Joyner. I just have a question about a children's choir. Is that in there somewhere, even if it's simple?
Yeah, I think oh, sorry, go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Oh, I was going to say that I think one of our fondest memories is our son Scott, who eventually went into singing opera, but he started in Denver in the Colorado Children's Chorale. And that was a very formal operation, but we had a wonderful small choir at St. John's Episcopal Church in Boulder. And all of them loved, even our oldest son, who isn't the greatest singer, but they all went as a group, all four of our children, and they liked expressing themselves through music. So, I think that's worthy of including in the program, and we'll take in mind when we make our pledge. So.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the strategic plan, it was in there from 2019 under children and youth families. It actually said connect Music Academy with the church more closely. And now with the new staff hire, we're looking at candidates on the search committee for the new organist. We prioritize children's music as part of that job posting. And so the applicants we're looking at right now, all of them have significant children's music experience. And so we're really at this point looking for fit. Some of them have done more formal things. Some have done more informal things. So I'm excited because I think it's a good opportunity to tie those things closely together. Yep. Christina over there.
One thing that I've noticed is that I'm seeing that a lot of young families are moving here to the landings. And I'm just wondering, how can we reach out to those younger families?
Yeah.
I mean, what would be an approach without being, without being rude or pushy?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the question, right? And vestry tried to get some of that census data, the new census information about the area, to see exactly how many young families have moved to the area. Apparently, it's not open to the public yet, so we're still waiting for that census information. But anecdotally, people think that it about doubled the children and families in the area. That's anecdotally, who knows? We'll see when the census data becomes available. But, I mean, that's the question. How do we reach them? I don't have the answer to that question. I've never been a part of a church that's had a thriving children's ministry. It's becoming rarer and rarer these days. And so we really do want to find somebody who knows how to make it happen so that we can support them. I'll do whatever I need to do. I'm just not the person to know those exact details. Ann, again?
Again, what I was going to suggest is put in a call to Christ Church Frederica on St. Simon's. You know Tom Purdy, I'm sure.
I do, yeah.
I mean, that children's ministry, from when I was aware of it, now it's been a while, was just unbelievable. And I bet that would be a great resource.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Yep. We ended up going with the one that's more the more local one at Christ Church downtown. But yeah, Christ Church Frederica has a good, actually, music program that meshes with the children's program. That's a good point. Yep. Okay. Wow. Thank you all for coming. Trevor. Yeah. Hal, I think Trevor wants to say something. And then it sounds like we're going to wrap up soon. Oh, careful.
Don't.
I usually give my gifts by stock. Right onto the mouth, right onto the lips.
I don't think can't hear it.
Okay.
It can't hear it.
I
don't think it's on.
usually give.
Here. You can use mine. You can use mine. Mine might be louder.
I usually give my pledge with stocks, and one of the advantages of that is that I own some good stocks, and some of them are nearly as old as I am. So they have a lot of unrealized gains, and so the
Perfect.
best thing for me to do is give you the stock, and then you sell the stock and get the unrealized gains. Otherwise, I have to pay taxes on the unrealized gains. The issue though now is that there seems to be some possibility that unrealized gains will be taxed in situ. If you understand what I mean? Hanging on for this process, if I pledge for next year and I wait till next year, my unrealized gains may be taxed before then. So if I tried to beat that and give you the stock in this year, could you just sort of make sure that counts for next year?
We,
That's a good question.
you know what? You don't want to give
Jim?
twice, Trevor? Yeah. No, that is, it's one of the real benefits that I didn't touch on, or one of the assets is we do get a lot of prepaid, what are called prepaid pledges, people who pay their full year's pledge in October, November, December. We actually already have some for next year that have been paid already. So it's a very simple process. The flow is all there. You can talk to Pete if you want some more details. But basically, it's all in place, and it works every year. We have to make sure that we post the numbers correctly, but other than that, it works great. Are there other questions?
We can also take questions after. Hal's going to be over there. I'm going to be up here. Pete's over there. Doug's here.
Right. Email, phone
Yeah.
calls, whatever. Again, you can always, the office has a great little, front door email address.
Yep.
It'll come in and they'll figure out who it should go to, and they'll send it to us.
Yep.
And then we'll respond.
All right. Let us bless the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Thank you all.
Quick, turn these on.